was a dandy, a man a woman could really show off. And he had the mystique of an American accent. His parents, you see, were from the United States.
I do like my present. You are sweet.
Well, I love you.
We've been able to find out very little about Mrs. McMahon, other than that she held her man entranced.
When I was a boy, my father took me out in the country, put a pistol in my hand, set up a tin can about 20 feet away, and told me to fire at it. Every time I missed, that guy would bang me about the head. Finally, when I got to the point where I could shoot that can full of lead and not miss, he moved it 30 feet away. I can teach you to shoot. We'll take a picnic. We'll take champagne, and we'll take grapes, and we'll go out to the beach.
Just as long as you don't hit me if I miss. I went to town today. Went through every shop.
You had a good time.
I had a lovely time. Well, you know that jeweler's shop in the square? Well, they have the most wonderful pendant there. I tried it on. It's lovely.
And expensive?
Well, you don't expect me to wear anything cheap.
No. You really like it, huh?
It's beautiful. I'll show it to you.
Sure.
Do you have to go?
Business. When you deal on land, you've got to strike while the iron is hot.
Can you stay with me just another day or two, please?
No, it's all arranged. I have to go to the coast tomorrow.
Well then, let's not waste time.
The West Coast, November the 10th, 1917. A pay car making its regular journey to the Port Elizabeth mine is stopped by an obstruction on the Old Coast Road. The following is as the events were later described in police evidence.
Quick, Hall! Get the gun! Help me!
It was a brutal murder. The driver, Coltard, died at the scene. Mine manager, Mr. I. James, suffered from his wounds for the rest of his life. Paymaster William Hall held on for a few weeks, then died, leaving his wife expecting her fourth child.
dreadful thing, dreadful. A young man in his prime. Dreadful.
They ought to hang the bastard that did it.
Three days later, Eggers was back in Christchurch, flush with funds.
Give this the guy a while and don't tighten himself down in one way.
Sir would like to discuss a matter with you in private.
Why?
If you don't mind, sir.
I do mind. Who the hell are you?
Detective Abbott. This is Detective Connolly. I was hoping to do this without causing you any embarrassment. But if you insist, I must ask you to accompany me to the police station.
Eggers, with his brash and truculent manner, had aroused suspicion in Greymouth, and the police had been investigating every last smidgen of suspicious behavior. But it was at the police station that Eggers convinced the police of his guilt.
Turn your bag out on the table.
Turn your bag out.
Besides the pistol, there was in the bag a quantity of banknotes and bundles of 20, tied up in elastic bands just as they're sent from the bank. Altogether, there'd be about £100 or so in the bag. We placed Eggers in the watch house and went back to the Empire Hotel where his supposed wife was. We took her to where she and Eggers had been staying, which was at a boarding house in East Christchurch. Upon entering the premises, Detective Connolly and I set about making a thorough search of the couple's room. Mrs. McMahon remained seated on the bed, refusing to surrender any property or assist our inquiries. We checked every drawer, hat box, and trunk with no success. I motioned for Mrs. McMahon to move aside from the bed, which she did. I then checked under the place where she had been sitting.
He had a successful land deal. That's his money. You can't take that.
Frederick William Eggers,
The evidence raised before this hearing leaves no alternative than to commit you on charge that you face trial for robbery and murder. You will be remanded until your case can be heard.
Here's a great idea after a busy day. Pre-prepared southern fried chicken pieces from the country boys on the Golden Otaki coast. All you do is roast or fry them. And southern fried chicken never tasted better.
When the occasion calls for more, now there's one specially bred for roasting and carving. Le Grand Poulet, tender spring chicken for the big occasion.
Golden Coast.
Christmas is a time for giving, and you'll find a great selection of Christmas gifts at your local chemist. Choose from the enchanting Piero Love and other selections.
Smooth as silk, Philips Lady Shaves make ideal gifts. For beginners, the perfect camera, the Kodak Ektra 200.
For enthusiasts, the Kodak Ektralite 500 with built-in flash. And picture-perfect Kodacolor film for everyone. Great Christmas gift ideas, as close as your local chemist.
Europeans cherish their classic grape varieties and find it hard to believe they could grow well anywhere else in the world. Montana proved otherwise here in Marlborough, New Zealand. Here the vines enjoy more sunshine hours each year than anywhere on the Rhine in Germany. And look at the result. Magnificent. Come and see classic vines of the world here in one beautiful valley at Montana's Marlborough Vineyards.
Many people saving for their own home find themselves standing still or even going backwards. Countrywide has changed all that with their new fast-track home loans. In 12 months, you can apply for a home loan worth double your savings. In 3 years, you can apply for a home loan worth 6 times your savings. That's $6 for each dollar you've saved, with a maximum loan of $50,000, up to 90% of the property's registered value. Whee! Fast-track home loan accounts, only from Countrywide Building Society, New Zealand savings and home loans people.
The glamour and romance of ballroom dancing comes alive on Television One's Top Dance LP. 16 specially chosen tracks that bring the ballroom into your own home. Relax and enjoy the magic music by the Terry Gray Big Band. Top Dance, LP and cassette, out now from RCA.
Be warned, Mrs. McMahon. Anything said in connection with the case will be taken down, and, if necessary, will be used.
Oh, Will. Did you shoot the boy?
I cannot say. There was someone else.
Why can't you clear yourself?
No, it's no use. I've got no chance. They've got enough evidence to hang me 6 times.
Don't talk to me about hanging, Will. You know how it makes me feel.
Yes, I know.
Whatever made you bring the money to our place?
I don't know. I've made 2 mistakes. You see the position I'm placed in. She knows nothing about it at all.
Well, that is the police description of the interview. The Crown called a series of witnesses who wove a whole web of circumstantial evidence, all of it incriminating Mr. Eggers. He had not, it would seem, been very discreet. He'd made several substantial purchases just after the robbery, mainly presents for Mrs. McMahon. He'd been seen in the area of the robbery just prior to its occurrence, and several witnesses say that he had questioned them minutely on the payroll delivery route and its frequency. And then there was the very, very damning evidence of a grey-mouthed barber.
Well, I had several customers waiting while I was shaving Mr. Eggers. We were all talking about the robbery. The whole town was talking about it. Anyhow, someone said that you couldn't fire accurately with a revolver in each hand. But Eggers, he up and boasts that he's got a Colt automatic that could fire 36 shots a minute and that he was a good shot with either the right or the left hand.
The barber's evidence was incontestable, but not so some of the other witnesses. The police had held an identity parade at the Greymouth police station, all seemingly fair and honourable.
My client's photograph was splashed across every paper in the country. When he was taken to the watch house from the railway station, he was seen by a crowd of more than 1,000 spectators. Of course the witnesses recognized Mr. Eggers. The whole country would recognize him. This identity parade was a farce.
You swear by Almighty God that the evidence you shall give...
The court was hushed. The evidence was damning. William Eggers' only chance to escape the death sentence would be the testimony of Mrs. McMahon.
He gave me a diamond pendant and a wristlet watch. They were little presents for me. But he told me he'd paid for them out of my money.
Your money?
He always wanted to pay for the things I bought, and I didn't want him to, so I would give him my money so he could pay for me.
How did he pay? Was it from a bundle of notes?
No, they were single notes.
Were they? We've heard the testimony of the police witnesses reporting on your meeting with the accused after his arrest. What did the accused say when you asked him if he killed Coulthard?
I don't think I asked him that.
Did you not ask the accused if he killed the boy, referring to Coulthard?
Yes, I think I did.
Well, what was his reply?
He said, no, don't ask me.
Don't ask him.
Then I asked him about the money. He said, don't ask me, there's more than me.
Don't ask me, there's more than me.
I think so. It could have been there's more in it than me. I'm not sure.
When you referred to the money, what else did the accused say?
That he had made 2 terrible mistakes.
Thank you.
Did you understand my client to deny that he had shot the boy?
Yes, certainly.
And did my client say, as the police claim he said, they have enough evidence to hang me 6 times over?
Never did he say that in my hearing.
Not at the time of the interview or at any other subsequent time?
Never.
You have said Mr. Eggers gave you a pistol for a present.
That's right.
And you know that the Crown has attempted to prove that your present was one of the pistols used in the hold-up. Mrs. McMahon, where was that pistol while Mr. Eggers was away?
In my lodgings, the whole time.
Mrs. McMahon, when the police searched your room, they found no pistol, did they?
No.
What do you think happened to the pistol?
I don't know. It seemed to be missing.
Counsel for William Eggers did not call evidence for the defence. What was the use? The evidence was all circumstantial and very, very difficult to refute. All he could do was attack the basis of that circumstantial evidence. So, in his summing up, he pointed out the difficulties under which Eggers had been labouring, to wit, the strong current of public opinion, the late appointment of counsel, and the newspaper rhetoric. One newspaper had referred to Eggers as the murderer while the trial was still in progress. And then he took the only course open to him. He played upon the doubt.
That murder was committed cannot be denied. I would not insult the jury's intelligence by doubting that there was a masked man. But has the Crown proved to your complete satisfaction that my client was the man who committed the crime? If you have any doubt, then Mr. Eggers is entitled to the benefit of that doubt. I submit that my client is not the man who committed the crime. The crucial issue in this case is the question of identification. No one has come before this court and said, I saw that man commit the crime. To allow yourselves the easy way of presumption in this matter of identification would be monstrous. The pistol has never been identified as that to which Mr. Eggers had access. All that has been proved is that one of the weapons was a Colt automatic. There must be many, many Colt automatics in this country. And surely, if my client had committed the crime, he would have had the sense to jettison the gun, not wander around Christchurch with it in his possession. As for the interview with Mrs. McMahon, can you really believe that anyone would fall prey to such a witless act of self-incrimination? I remind the jury of the total absence of substantial evidence. I remind the jury that this court has seen only one gun produced, and that not necessarily one of the murder weapons, merely the same trade name. And where is the other gun? I remind the jury of the grave responsibility placed upon you.
It was an impassioned speech, but it didn't turn the tide. The jury retired for only 2¼ hours.
Have you anything to say?
During his imprisonment after the trial, Eggers wrote 2 letters. One to Mrs. McMahon, asking her to smuggle strychnine into the prison so he could commit suicide, a request she did not comply with. The other, virtually confessing to the hold-up, but saying he didn't do the shooting. He said it was done by another man for £500, who was then paid off.
Thy tongue deviseth mischief, like a razor working deceitfully. Thou lovest evil more than good, and lying rather than to speak righteousness. Selah. Thou lovest all devouring words, O thou deceitful tongue. God shall likewise destroy thee forever. He shall take thee away, and pluck thee out of thy dwelling place. Root thee out of the land of the living. The righteous also shall see and fear and laugh at him. Lo, this is the man that made not God his strength, but trusted in the abundance of his riches, and strengthened himself in his wickedness. But I am like a green olive tree in the house of God. I trust in the mercy of God forever and ever, because thou hast done it. And I will wait on thy name, for it is good before thy saints.
I have 500 pounds that is mine, and I swear is not stolen. Please, it is my earnest desire that the 500 pounds should go to Mrs. McMahon. Standing here as a condemned man with 2 minutes to live, I swear I am not the man that did the shooting.
I am not the man that did the shooting. Let it be the last words that I speak. I am not the man that did the shooting.
I want the best for him. He was a man of style and will go out one.
We will do our very best by you and the deceased. Mahogany?
Yes, with brass and gold.
Whetia tuki whare kauri, tēnā rā koutou katoa. O tātou ma te tangihia nei te au I te pō, haere rā koutou. Tātou te hunga ora, ti he mauri ora.
Peki mai, kake mai, wakarongo ki te tani a te hui a hui, hui mai tātou, witi witi kōrero piua ki te awe. Hei mata ki taki, hei wakarongo rongo, mā te tini me te mamore.
Kia ora and welcome to Koha. Tonight, we report on two children riding their way to fame, a woman writing her way to fame, and we investigate whether advertising is giving Māoris a fair deal. First are the thrills of the racetrack, and two young Māori girls will be in for a great experience in August. All being well, they'll be going to Japan to compete in the Bicycle Motocross BMX World Championships.
Riders, are you ready? We're all still aboard.
It may only be a practice session, but Justine Cook and Gay McManus are giving it all they've got. They know they'll have to be good to take on the best in the world. 9-year-old Justine Cook has been riding for 2 years. Last year, she won the Trans-Tasman Championships in Australia, beating Australia's #1. 7-year-old Gay McManus is #1 for her age in New Zealand and Trans-Tasman champion. That's after racing for only 10 months. The girls' parents are very enthusiastic, but say while Māori children obviously excel at the sport, it does have disadvantages.
We began on a, really cheap bike. It cost, I say, $300, and that was a lot to us, to my mind. I thought, gosh, $300 is what we're looking at. That was initially, and now we've come to a bike, which my 6-year-old's riding, costs $1,000 in an imported model. And it's become a sophisticated sport. It's an elite one. When you go to Minganui Forest or Kaingaroa Plains, and the Māoris that do ride there, they've got natural ability, but they don't have the bikes. And they've proven, they've raced against children with American bikes and sophisticated equipment, that they have got the ability because they're riding on a, a normal pack-around bike, we call it.
And assuming their parents can find sponsorship for the girls, they'll be riding in Japan in 2 months' time. From the excitement of bike racing to the hard grind of writing, West Coast writer Kerry Hume has been attracting attention lately with her first novel, The Bone People. Two Tangata magazine calls The Bone People one of the most demanding, unconventional, innovative and stunning novels yet to appear in this nation. The reviewer describes Kerry Hume's writing as immensely rich, one of those rare books that will change people's lives and how New Zealanders think of themselves. Joy Cowley and the listener wrote, "We have known this book all our lives. The pages are textured with the rough and smooth of our own being. The sounds of wind, sea, and deep earth music have always been with us. The words have the smell of our small births and dyings, dyings and births. We are the Bone people." Next week, we'll be bringing you a profile of this rapidly emerging writer. The catwalk, the upfront world of selling to the public, just one of the many forms of advertising. Advertising affects everyone, whether it be an infant wearing double dry nappies, an adolescent treating pimples, or a family spreading jam on their morning toast.
Black models are the clothes pegs of fashion overseas, and especially in America and Europe, they're in big demand. Black modelling is big money. Here in New Zealand, it's rare to find large numbers of Māori models out on the catwalk. Most of the successful ones are working overseas. But the low percentage of Māori people in modelling doesn't just apply to the fashion world. In New Zealand's advertising industry, it applies right across the board.
You know, a jet plane landing, going through and down onto the runway. All right, so stand by.
Koha did its own investigating, and the results speak for themselves. Of the 165 ads that Koha viewed on 3 prime-time weeknights, 578 people appeared. And of those 578, 14 were Māori. That means that just under 2.5% of the people in our television commercials are identifiably Māori. But in fact, if all commercials were counted, the figure would be about 1%.
Polynesians are 12% more or less of New Zealand's population. They should show up roughly in that kind of figures on television, if television really reflects life in this country. In commercials, they show up about 1%, maybe 2%. Something's wrong with it.
It's a sad fact that in the last, say, 20 years, Maoris have not been used for commercial purposes, as they should be.
How do you think that's affecting Māori people in general?
I think they probably feel very out of it, out of the consumer society, out of the lifestyle of New Zealand. I would think that if I was Maori, I would feel that it's not for me.
Where you're looking for someone to best represent a group of people, then commercially you're bound to minimise the risk. So the blunt fact of the matter is there are not enough Maori people in New Zealand to represent a viable marketing function.
I think there is a degree of racism in everything in this country. There's a degree of racism in advertising. It's inevitable unless people really start thinking about what they are about and what they are doing. And so it's easy to fall into the stereotype roles. I think we've got to be very careful not to do that in advertising because it reflects a mirror of society. And I think it just compounds the problems that already exist in New Zealand.
Use that collar again, more. Throw that head around.
Not only is there concern about the lack of Māori people in ads, but also how they are shown in them.
That's it, yeah, that's good.
No, I have not been satisfied with the way the Māori has been portrayed. I feel that we could do better. Okay, in some ads I feel that we are shown as a happy-go-lucky people, and so we are. We make no apologies for that. But also, I think I would like to see that we can be beautiful people as well, and can be quite serious and quite competent in directing our own destiny.
I think there is some advertising showing Maori people in perhaps traditional stereotypes, which, if I was Maori, I would find demeaning. No question of that.
When you think of the most positive portrayal of a Maori in a television commercial, it's, of course, Kiri Te Kanawa, and she deserves all that acclaim because she is an international star. But it's, unfortunately for me, an ad from an American company made in England. It has no New Zealand connection other than the star. And I think that the New Zealand ads, which do use Maoris, certainly don't achieve anything like that. But my main problem with the New Zealand television commercials is that there are so few Polynesians in them at all.
But perhaps one of the only companies which has shown the diversity of people in this country with any consistency is Greggs. They've brought out a series of commercials featuring aspects of real New Zealand life. This was one of them.
There's a coffee we've all got to know, the finest taste to say hello. It's a cup of coffee, friends will favor. Hello, Greggs, hello, flavor. There's a welcome when you
It shows real people. They look like real human beings, the kind I see walking down the street. They are enjoying themselves in a New Zealand setting, and they are maintaining their own kind of cultural identity and yet sharing it with the others.
But what's the whole point of lobbying for Māori input in ads? Does it really matter whether Māoris appear in commercials?
For me, it matters a lot. I can think of three reasons. Probably the least important is that people like me, and I suspect there's a fair number of us out there, really like to see all that nice color technology that TVNZ has being used on something besides mountains and lakes. I like to see people of different colors on television. That's who I see in the street. That's who I see in my classroom. I want to see that on television, too. The second one affects a much smaller group of people, but it's the Maori actors and actresses. Most New Zealand actors get their main supply of money, the staff of life, to get them through their days working on television commercials. Now, if you're brown, there is no law in this country that says you can't work on them. But there's a tradition that says you can't work on them. Law or no law, you don't get paid any better if you're not appearing in them, and they're simply not appearing. The third one is more important. It's the most important. I think that kids need to see their mothers and fathers and their older brothers and sisters, and eventually themselves, in positive roles. And one of the ways that we portray positive roles is in television, and television commercials are important in that. Kids watch commercials more carefully than they watch shows. That's why Sesame Street is a bunch of commercials all tacked together for half an hour. If you're a Pākehā kid growing up in New Zealand, you see a lot of people that look like your mommy and daddy and your brother and sister doing positive things. They're buying cars, they're banking their money, they're planting seeds. If you're a Maori kid, you don't see it. You almost never see it.
It is very important to show Māori ads to Māori children to help raise their self-esteem. And I think it's important, once we achieve this, raise their self-esteem, I don't think that you would have as many of the problems that we're having today.
Okay, it's good. More shoulder, bring the shoulder around, up, but you cannot work.
To be a model, you've got to want to be a model, so you can relate to the camera and things like that. To be a good model, you've got to have a certain type of quality, and I think with myself, it's maybe the colour of my skin, my bone structure.
Our people have not had the courage to come forward and apply for positions within advertising. They felt perhaps that they weren't good enough, perhaps not beautiful enough to appear in front of a Kelvinator deep freeze. But today, that trend has changed.
Things may have changed, but progress to this point has been slow. For many, too slow.
That's nice.
There are capable Māori people around. Māori people able to present something which is relevant to both Māori and Pākehā.
Tēnā koe. What I'm going to say to you is very important. I'm going to tell you how to live a longer life. I'm going to tell you how to live a healthier life. And what's more, I'm going to tell you how to get more money. Lots more money. What I'm going to say to you is fact. Not opinion, not guesswork, but fact. Based upon these papers of research from United States, Great Britain, New Zealand, Japan. Here is what you can do if you want to live longer, to stay healthier, to make more money. Stop smoking now.
You can't govern